Hello, my fellow readers. Dark Symphony 777 back with my camera. With another fanfiction review. I had to say the camera thing. I'm sorry that I left my camera at my friend's house. I hope that never happens again. I hope. Nope, not gonna cry. Excuse me. So, as always, I'll be leaving a link to the story in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. Quick update. This will be the penultimate review of the year. The next review will be Paper Chopper by Mechanical Oven, both the first story and the second story, and then finally Super Paper Chopper by the same author will be the first story review of 2023. So I actually hope you enjoy that. But after I do the next video, it will be mostly just either gaming stuff or it'll be the top 10 reviews of this year. I pretty much already have the top 10 stories already lined up. I just got to record it. But I want to finish reading the second Paper Chopper, 800,000 words. And then Super Paper Chopper is going to be like over 1 million words. And I don't know. And that's going to be really annoying to do, especially since I have to rely on audiobook for the most part to get through these stories. They are that bad. Don't worry. I'll talk about them when I talk about them. But we're not talking about Paper Chopper. We're talking about Ike versus the Fourth Wall. It is a Fire Emblem fanfiction. And honestly, I wasn't planning on doing this fanfiction, but me and my friend were actually playing Dungeon Defenders. And he started using the sword beam as like the squire, and then he quickly referenced the story. It's like, I'm gonna review that story for fun, just a dumb, goofy story. But is it good? Not kind of good. This is mainly a comedy story. It's basically, there's not really any plot to it. Like I'm pretty much skipping over most of the review because there's just not really much in terms of plot or characters, because this is a type of story that is basically a sketch comedy, which means every single chapter it takes a specific part of the events of either Fire Emblem Path of Radiance or Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, and then just makes it funny. It doesn't really have any coherent plot because it's just a bunch of different scenes, random. There's not really much in the way of characters, except for Ike being kind of a doofus. So we have to rely on the grammar. We have to rely specifically on the pacing and how it works in the sense of a comedy story. That makes these stories kind of really simultaneously hard to review and also easy to review because, again, a large part of reviewing these stories is based on how good is the story, how good is the characters, and you can't really do that in these types of stories because what plot, what characters? I mean, yeah, we have several reoccurring characters, like we have the running gag of Ranulf, the cat boy from Gallia, having plot armor. It's like, haha, I'm mandatory for this mission, but I have plot armor, haha, so I can't die either way. Haha! Ike being a doofus, Soren being like, just, no, we need to use a support. We have a support. And most importantly, Black Knight with being Batman. He's Batman. just picture this 10-foot tall guy in gigantic goddess-soaked armor that cannot be hurt by anything, with a sword that can cut through any material, and he goes, Black Knight. It's admittedly goofy. However, does that make the story good? No. Because the story it's around nearly 60,000 words, and usually you don't want a comedy story going this long. You don't. Yeah, it's mainly like a sketch one, but it still begs the whole conversation of how long a comedy story should be going until you actually have to start incorporating plot into it. And this kind of like took that line. It's like, I'm gonna drag the line with me. Oh no, I'm passing the line. I'm just dragging it with me. And it kind of renders a lot of stuff really muted. Not to mention the fact that a lot of the comedy relies specifically on knowing the events of both Path to Radiance and Radiant Dawn. It's an extremely niche story in that way, because it has to be a comedy. Comedy's not everyone's cup of tea. It requires actual intimate knowledge of the events of two specific games in a long-running franchise, where most people really only became known to the franchise because of Awakening on the DS. And so that kind of left Path to Radiance and Radiant Dawn in the dust. Not to mention all the problems with Radiant Dawn. Radiant Dawn was completely garbage. I'm still working my way through that game. However, I'm not a fan of some of the characters. Micaiah. I mean, Micaiah might go through. Micaiah might grow on me, but I haven't gotten there yet. But it's just, there's just so much knowledge of certain events of the game, knowing, being a fan of this type of story, not really getting bored. And that kind of feeds into the pacing. I mean, the pacing, all right. It's a sketch show. It's a sketch story. So the pacing is like really fast paced because it's just trying to tell a bunch of jokes without trying to incorporate any plot. I'm sorry. It's just these types of stories. They're just a pain to review because just how little there is to talk about. I was like, oh, comedy, oh, pacing, no plot, no characters. Okay, is there anything you want to talk about? I could talk about some of the jokes. I mean, Super Mario 64 DS Kara, that's still a long name, was somewhat the same way, but at least it had the decency to have a plot. It didn't have jacked all in the way of actual characters. That was a story where Yoshi was the main character, and he teamed up with Lucky the Leprechaun against the Kellogg's Rooster. Like, yeah, come on. Like, you can't really take that story seriously, but at least it had a plot. It had something for me to talk about. What am I going to talk about this? What am I going to talk about with versus the fourth wall? There's just nothing to talk about. It's fast paced. It's the writing. Okay, fine. The writing's good. At least, the jokes are hit or miss. Again, it relies on the fact that you need to know what these jokes are. I laughed at the Path to Radiance one, but I completely knew jack all about the Radiant Dawn one, except for the whole part where Soren goes on a little rant in one of the chapters. It's like, what? God damn. Where is it? There it is. Let's see. Oh yeah. So really, we're someone to be branded from Dayan. They would be horribly, innately racist against the Lagoose, and the Lagoose would hate and loathe them on sight. A branded from Dayan would have a lot of baggage to overcome. They definitely would not be a friend of all living things, given that they would be from Dayan, and also branded. And even if they were, against all conceivable odds, a friend to all living things, all Lagoos would recognize that they were branded and refuse to associate them. They would be just like me and have to learn how to accept others for their differences. Part of their journey would be coming to grips with the inoculation and past issues, which would be very difficult to get over and involve lots of turmoil and making peace with the good and the bad of every race. They would be a compelling character with real thought, having to learn to judge others based on their actions and not the actions of their species. Go ahead, Jill, and say it. Fuck you, Micaiah, you daughter Mary Saul! I mean, no, wait, that wasn't so. That was Jill, and Jill is best girl. I like Jill in Path to Radiance. Oh, my friend is gonna be because my friend is actually playing through Path to Radiance, and I'm trying to help him out because I know how to get all the characters. and, I'm totally gonna troll him. I say, hey, when you get to this specific part, have Jill talk to the boss. Go on. It'll be fun. Come on, you get a secret conversation. But yeah, this is cream soda, by the way. Just nothing. There's just nothing to talk about. I think that's it. I'm desperately trying to think of stuff to talk about, people. I'm desperately trying to think of stuff. Oh, I hate shares of soda substance. At least with Mr. Director, there's like, oh, I can talk about stuff. I just can't talk about a lot. But this one I can't even talk about. I can't talk about anything. Oh, I realize. Oh, I put myself in a corner. I might as well. You know what? I might as well just say if I like the story or not. I kind of. I mean, I would kind of recommend it. I would say if you at least played through Path to Radiance and Radiant Dawn, and you can easily get these games through like Dolphin Emulator or RetroArch, and you can play them that way. You can even have cheats to like get like all the stats and all the things. At least then you can go like, hey. That you at least get the jokes. But if you're not a fan of these two games, if you didn't play these two games, don't read it. Don't read it. It really requires you knowing the plot of the games to even know what's going on half the time. So there's that. Favorite part. Favorite part is actually the reason why I want to talk about the story. Because my favorite part is actually a very hilarious meta thing. So, once, a long while ago, I tried to get my friend into reading fanfiction. Not a lot of fanfiction, just a story. And he said, oh, is there anything you want me to recommend, like any specific fandom? And he's like, Fire Emblem. It's like, okay. So I just looked through Fire Emblem, and I found this story. And it's like, all right, I'll just read you the first chapter. And the first chapter of the story is the iconic moment at the end of Path of Radiance, where Ike, the main character, goes against the Black Knight, who is this big, like I said earlier, he's a big, honking, 10-foot tall dude, covered in armor, blessed by the goddess, can't really be hurt unless it's by a sword that was also blessed by the goddess. He has to. Black Knight's whole shtick was he trained to try and beat Ike's father. Didn't like the fact that Ike's father technically kind of copped out, and that led the Black Knight to killing Ike's father, because, spoilers for Path to Radiance, Ike's father, Griel, was a very, very formidable sword fighter, and the Black Knight wanted to test his skill about it, but when the Black Knight fought Griel on that, at before chapter 7, 8, Griel kind of revealed that he can't really use the sword anymore, and because he literally destroys his arm to prevent him from using the sword. So after Black Knight killed Griel, the Black Knight spent the rest of the game trying to subtly nudge Ike to get stronger, so that way he can actually get the fight with Ike's father that he wanted. Just basically, I want to fight the greatest swordsman in this continent. However, he's dead, so I'm gonna fight him vicariously through his son. That makes sense. So we got to the big climactic fight, and we actually get like a very, very hilarious moment in the story where Ike goes in the room. Ike's sister Mist follows him to act as a healer. Ike walks up to the Black Knight. He's ready to swing, and then he looks at the stat bar. And he goes, wait a minute. What do you mean I can only do 1 hit point of damage? The Black Knight goes, oh. And you double me? At 19 hit points, I've got like defense. I've been taking 1 or no damage from everything. I'm the Black Knight. Okay, fine. Aether! You played Smash. Aether is basically Ike's Smash up special. It's like, oh, and then the Black Knight goes, oh, not bad. I'm way lucky getting Aether on the first turn. Thanks! And then we get, like, the greatest in-joke between me and him, and where the Black Knight goes, oh, by the way, Sword Beam. And one-shots Ike, and he's forced to reset. And so that becomes, like, a running gag throughout the story, that whenever the Black Knight shows up, he just acts like Batman, saying, all right, who's ready for Sword Beam? All right, you move, Sword Beam. One shot. Yeah. And that leads to, like, a joke. Whenever me and him kind of joke, we see someone using a sword beam, we always make reference to the stories by saying, like, oh, by the way, sword beam. or he references, you know, we don't need Nazir. Like, we don't need him. We don't need him. In context, Nazir is actually a character you get from when you beat the Black Knight. You actually kind of get a split character. You get Nazir if you beat the Black Knight, but you get his daughter Ina if you don't beat the Black Knight. It just depends on. Both of them are different stat wise. It just depends on who you have. And this kind of caused a really, really hilarious. Like I said, it caused the running gag between me and my friend of just always referencing this one moment. Whenever we see any character in the game use a sword beam, we just make reference to the story. It's really hilarious. Granted, it's hilarious in like a in-joke sort of thing, like, like wink wink, nudge nudge scenario. So it's only really funny to me. It's only really, that's why it's my best moment, because it's like, it's just one, just a slight in-joke between me and my friend. I mean, if you want like an actual favorite part, I got nothing. I got nothing. Oh no. Yeah, this is a story. As a reason why this story ain't appeared on my top 10. I will see you next time. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and God.